Before we, as is common when a new mayor is elected, they'll change out their team. And that's happened with this most recent election as well. Boards and commissions across the city have new faces and new participants, including this one. We also have new advisors and consultants. And so it's my pleasure to introduce our new attorney, Andrew Clark, with the Albany law firm of TRK LLC. And welcome. Glad you joined us. Say something about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. We're looking forward to working with all of you and the public and serving the city in any way we can.
Good. Well, we'll find lots of ways for you to do that. The mayor's also interviewing engineers with plans to have someone in place by our March meeting. But I'm very happy to be able to say that Chris Bertram has stayed with us to help out during the transition. And it's so valuable because his knowledge of the projects is the best and is a great advisor and a great person to have to my right. And I'm going to pronounce his law firm, his engineering firm, but I think I'd like, Gene, what's the name of this firm?
Martin and Luchulis.
Sorry, I was told that was an inside joke, but it apparently wasn't very funny. The firm is Barton and Luchulis, and you've been with us for 2 years.
The firm's been with us for 7-8 years now.
Yeah, great.
The city parks.
Right. So this is going to assure that we don't lose any more time as we go through the various transitions we're going through. So thanks again. Appreciate it and appreciate the service that you're providing. One last announcement. We have a third new board member appointed. Nathan Woodhull has accepted the mayor's appointment to the planning board. He's out of town right now, so he's missing his first meeting. So we're going to volunteer him for a lot of extra duties in today's meeting. He'll be joining us as a regular board member in March. There are no other announcements or updates. I'll call the meeting of the Hudson Planning Board to order. We have no bills to approve, so we'll move right into approval of the minutes from the January 13th meeting. Any changes or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Accept the minutes. Motion is made to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Vogel,
Yes.
Ms. Conger, absent. Ms. Hoffman, absent. Mr. Mango. Mr. Shevsky,
Yes.
Mr. Spear,
Yes.
Mr. Woodhull, absent.
Okay, good. Thank you, Linda. I'd like to reorder the agenda just a little bit to bring committee reports up to the front of the meeting tonight. A couple of updates that I'd like to share with you. One, over the last few weeks, I've met with the leaders of the CAC and HPC to explore ways that we might work together more collaboratively. And out of those conversations came a decision that we would create informal liaisons between our two groups, not between the planning board and CAC, the planning board and HPC. Since Nathan has just stepped down from the CAC, I asked him if he would serve as a liaison to the CAC, and he has agreed to do that. The role of the liaison is informal. It's not a new layer of bureaucracy. It's just to keep a dialogue open between these three groups so that when projects may overlap or somehow relate to more than one of us, we can share contact and collaborate together. I went ahead and asked Nate if he would serve the CAC liaison, but I wanted to wait until tonight to see if anyone wanted to volunteer to be the liaison with the Historic Preservation Council.
I'll do it.
Okay, great, Peter, thank you. We can talk more about what this looks like. It's not a designed relationship yet, and we're going to be building the bus while we drive it. But I think the main thing is to keep lines of communication open between these various groups. Last thing I'd like to say under this item in the agenda, fees and escrow. It usually when a new chairman or a new leader takes over a committee, it's a good idea to kind of look at the finances of the organization, make sure that the systems that we have in place are sound and working. So we're doing that now. And Gene has, for the last 2 years, Gene,
Yes, sir.
really taken the burden of managing the escrows and the fees. And from my view, that's not fair to put that on a volunteer board member, but you've done it. You've done a great job with it. We appreciate it. But as a part of Linda's expanding duties, I've asked Linda if she would take over the management of that aspect of our work. And Gene didn't disagree with me. I was pleased to. So over the next month, Linda and Andrew and I will be kind of looking over the systems that are in place, tweaking them where necessary, looking at the transparency of the process. And that's really the only finances we have as a group. So, but it's an important part of our management of those assets because they are the fuel that drives our process. So I anticipate that we'll be bringing an agenda item to the March meeting for the board to discuss and act on if we implement any new procedures or approaches to managing that part of the work. So if there is no more business under the committee reports, let me just make sure I refer to my notes. Nope. We're going to move into the next order of business, which is old business. We have several projects we're going to be getting updates on tonight. I think there's some very exciting developments occurring amongst you all. And so we're excited to be able to be a part of the discussion that helps you imagine the future that you seek and be a partner with you to make sure that that happens in the best way possible. Our first presentation is 41 North 2nd Street Housing Authority project. So you all want to come forward, introduce yourselves, and then the floor is yours.
Thank you all for having us here tonight. My name is Lavonda Smith. I'm the Hudson Housing Authority Chair. I have been on the board for going on 6 years now. I'm also born and raised in the Housing Authority. I just moved out 15 years ago. My parents still live there. So my goal was to make a change. There was nothing happened there, no renovations, nothing, just deteriorating buildings. So that made me want to join the board and make a change. So enough of me. I'm going to move right into handing it over to our Executive Director, Jeffrey Dotson.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us back. As always, it is exciting for me to be here as we move forward to this project. The Hudson Housing Authority was established in 1965, and it was developed for seniors, senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and low-income families. It wasn't the buildings weren't actually constructed until 1973, and it is all located at 41 North 2nd Street. The project is obsolete currently. There's been no major renovations on that property since 1973. The systems are very poor, from the elevators to the wiring to the plumbing to the facade. It's literally very obvious, and I always invite people to come down for a tour because our folks are living in dilapidated conditions. And that's not the purpose of it, of the building. It was established to provide safe, sanitary housing for our residents of Hudson that are less fortunate. To that end, we've been working on this project since I've been here for 3.5 years, specifically, but the idea of getting something new in Hudson for our folks has been ongoing for 7 years. And by the way, the building was declared obsolete prior to me arriving, so at least 10 years prior. So it's very urgent and critical that we entertain this project and we develop something new. And so my development partners, Marco and I, have the Hudson Housing Authority has developed this project, a 2-phase project, which we'll go into more detail about. But the first phase is going to be 166 units, 4 stories, just 31 more units than we have now because we have 135. And the beauty of it is that unlike other redevelopment projects who move folks away and send them somewhere else, no one will be displaced because we're going to build first and on our underutilized side of the property, other places on our property, relocate those residents and then go into the second phase of the project. So with that, I introduce John First. He's our attorney.
Good evening. My name is John First. I'm an attorney at Man Ryder McKay in Newburgh, New York. I'm a local land use. It's here, Mapco and Hudson Housing Authority. So let me just bring you up to speed a little bit procedurally. I know we've got a couple of new faces here. As Jeffrey had mentioned, this project has been in the works for years. But over the last year in 2025, we've been before the planning board at 4 separate occasions. During those times, we presented various different concept plans. We've come to the planning board, sought feedback, revised, and whatnot. So we've been going back and forth with the planning board with respect to conceptual plans in 2025, at least on 4 different occasions. As Jeffrey had mentioned, this is a 2-phase approach because mainly, they have the existing building has to remain so they can, clear it out, get people moved, and then they can't really work on that existing building until the other buildings are done. That's why they have the phased approach. So what we're looking here, because it's a phased approach, from a SECR perspective, from your SECR environmental review, we're going to look at the entire project, the whole concept plan. We've provided a concept plan, and we've looked at a lot of things from the conceptual level on the grander scale. We've looked at, we submitted a drainage report, we submitted parking and traffic analysis. We've done a revised EAF, the part 1, which includes the entire phase 1 and phase 2. But specifically for the planning board, we're only looking for site plan approval for phase 1. So you're gonna have a lot of the site plan details only for phase 1. Or you're gonna have enough conceptually for phase 1 and phase 2 for SECR purposes. The project has evolved over the year based upon feedback. The last meeting we had was in October 2025, and that's where we kind of met with the board and we kind of, in our mind, we had that final conceptual plan that we were ready to move forward with. We had a detailed analysis with respect to the parking and the traffic. And so based upon the feedback we received in October, we took it to the next level and we provided all the details that are required for site plan review and for the SECR review. We provided elevations and site plans, provided landscaping, lighting plans, the SWIP for both phases, parking and traffic analysis was revised. And like I said, the EAF was revised. So we feel we're at the point where we'd like to move forward to scheduling a public hearing and getting it referred to the county. I know we've got some new board members, so we want to introduce the project, but we just want to keep it in mind that, we'd like to kind of push it forward as quickly as we can while you guys still do your due diligence. The other thing the board accomplished back in October was they declared their intent to be lead agency. They then circulated to be lead agency. So the 30 days has passed. I believe they got a lot of comments back from the other boards. Nobody was really interested. The one simple thing you can do tonight is at least declare yourselves the lead agency. That's probably a simple procedural step if you're ready to take that. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to the site civil engineer who's remotely logged in. Joe, can you hear me? I want him to kind of go through the site plan because we do have a couple of new board members.
Yes, I can hear you, John. I will, if I can share my screen, I could pull up the plan as well. Is everyone able to see the plan on the screen?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone. As John mentioned, my name is Joe Nitre. I am with Weston and Sampson, the engineer for this project. And as John had mentioned too, this is an overall layout of our site showing phase 1 and phase 2. So in phase 1, we have building we are calling B1 on the north side of State Street. It is an L-shaped building with a underpass and parking off of North 2nd Street up where my cursor is here, and a secondary parking lot off of State Street over here. This building is 4 stories. It has a basement, where my cursor, I will highlight it. On this end over here, it has a basement level, and this is due to the grade as you go along State Street. If you've been out there, you have a grade difference of almost about 20 feet from over here at North Second Street intersection down to the end of the property. We have a main foyer entrance off of State Street that will connect directly to the parking lot behind the building. And we also have our underground stormwater detention that we have fully designed and provided a drainage analysis for underneath both parking lots, the one to the north here and the small parking lot to the west over here. All utility, water, sewer, connection, point of interest will all be along State Street. As we move down to what we are calling Building A1, where my cursor is over here, this will also be part of Phase 1. We have a connection being made from Columbia Street to State Street. If you've been out to the site and you're familiar with it, there actually is an existing retaining wall. I'll zoom in. Oops. Right over here along the property, and on our site is actually about 7 to 8 feet higher than what is actually in State Street. So as part of this project, to make this connection work, we will be eliminating that retaining wall, but we'll ultimately end up having a retaining wall that will run along the parking lot all the way from pretty much State Street through Columbia, so that we can make this connection work between Columbia and State Street. Again, we have our proposed stormwater retention system underneath the parking lot for the building and the parking lot. As part of Phase 2, which we included in our FEAF Part 1 as part of the seeker process, there is a proposed building right now. It's very conceptual. Again, an L-shaped building. It is the thought possibly that will be coming in over on this lot. So when we did our drainage analysis, and it's in the reports, we analyzed as if this lot was developed. So everything is sized accordingly. So after Phase 1, the systems that we have will basically be considered oversized until this new development happens, and then it'll be sized adequately. But everything has been designed now to include this Phase 2 development over here on this portion of the property. In the meantime, we have also proposed a small retaining wall, again running on this end of the building, following my cursor from State Street to Second Street, that will go in place so that the buildings that are existing can remain while we are under construction. There'll be a slight grade difference based off of our final elevations, so this retaining wall will be necessary to keep these other buildings active while we are constructing Building A1. Again, this building will have its utilities connected off of State Street, sewer, water, drainage, everything will connect into State Street. The final piece of the puzzle here is this 4 townhome lot, a little tiny lot off to the corner of North Second Street and Columbia Street. We have 4 townhomes going in with 8 parking spaces total. Again, we designed our stormwater detention system. There'll just be some pipe storage, a small little lot underneath the parking lot, the only place we can really put it. And there is a small retaining wall that we will need to be putting in along that parking lot in order to make the grading work between the existing home, two-story building that is there, and this parking lot. Those are the updates since the last time that we've been here. The plan has basically been more fully developed. We include a grading plan, a landscaping plan now, erosion control plan, construction details, and as I mentioned, the full drainage report, which gives the whole design for both phases, phase 1 and phase 2.
Thank you, Joe. We also have the traffic engineer here. He went through a detailed analysis, so he'd like to give a brief summary again because there's so many board members to talk about the parking.
John. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, John Canning, principal with the firm Kilby Horn out of White Plains. So from the traffic and parking perspective, this application hasn't changed much, has been able to sit October. It's still a proposal to increase the number of units on the site by 141 from 135 to 276. The project is proposed to have a total of 174 parking spaces available to it in a combination of on-site and on the blocks fronting on it. And the projected peak parking demand based on surveys of the existing facility is 167. So that leaves us 7 fewer than the spaces that are provided. Peak parking demand is overnight because residential parking peaks when everybody's at home. We did prepare a detailed traffic and parking study. We submitted it to this board. It was reviewed by your consultant, who indicated it generally followed standard engineering practices. There were some inconsistencies, and we responded addressing them. Overall, it's a very walkable community, and the additional 141 units are projected to add 62 trips to the surrounding roadways. We studied 5 intersections. Generally, volumes are relatively low, and there'll be no change from this modest increase in traffic activity. So that's a 30,000 foot summary of the traffic and parking. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Everyone. Parking lot going from State Street to Columbia Street. Is that going to have an entrance and an exit on both streets, State and Columbia Street?
At this point, it is proposed to have.
I can't see it. So.
Yes, that is proposed.
Okay. I'm done with that.
Thank you.
The board has any other questions? We're here.
So before we start more discussion, I'd like to ask Chris if you have any additional content you'd like to.
I don't have any additional content right now. We haven't had a chance to review the application package. I do know it's complete. I downloaded all the files. So as soon as we have, thorough review done, we'll get a comment letter out to you guys.
Andrew, any comments?
No further comments. I think we'll wait for the engineer's review, and then the board could be guided accordingly by whatever's determined in there. And of course, the board can ask the applicants anything that comes up since they're here and we're here.
Jeff, any additional comments from your team?
Just that this project is essential and, just so folks can understand why part of the urgency I already told you about the building is dilapidated. The second part of it is that, the state has slated us for October of 26 to close. It's important that we meet that window because if we don't, it can delay the project another 6 to 9 months, which is not a good thing to do. The residents are already in dire straits and this building is overbuilt. So thank you.
So I would echo Jeff's comment that this project is essential and important for Hudson. And the planning board, I think, would seek to expedite as much as possible while still staying within the requirements that the state places on us. Welcome. I'd kind of like to make a broad comment about how I think we will approach working with you on this. The history of affordable housing in our country is not always a great story. Our first efforts in the mid-century were to create monstrous institutional structures that were not welcoming and friendly to the folks that live there. They were not good for the cities that they were in because they created restricted areas of living for people living on low wages or in poverty. And that DNA that were in those early designs is still gets carried forward. And, you know, we need to be thinking about places of dignity, places of pride, places of belonging. People who live on low wages and affordability may not be able to take as many vacations as some of us. They may not be able to see the beauty of the country around them. They only have their own town. And we believe that they deserve to have beauty just as much as any of the rest of us. And that's a guiding philosophy that I hope to carry through this project. But the problem is that DNA gets carried forward. And if you look at the Bliss Towers, you can see that it carries the DNA of the early 60s affordable housing movement. And we've now learned, having lived with it for over 50 years, that there are so many things about that design that really diminish the quality of life for the residents. And frankly, it doesn't really belong in the community. It feels like something that got parachuted in. The architecture, the design, the scale, the appearance. So I think what we need to be sure that we do is not carry forward the DNA, or at least minimize it as much as we can, of those early 1960s projects. Now, the folks that built Bliss Towers, I'm sure, were dedicated civic leaders that thought they were doing the very best for their community. But the fact that it's been there for 50 years, and even though I agree with Jeff, I took my tour last week and it's in pretty rough shape, folks. And I think probably it started out not being that well constructed in the beginning. So, but it lasted 50 years. So that should give us pause that we're making a decision as we deal with this process to build housing that will probably be with us beyond 2075, 2080, 2090. We're building a site that will serve multiple next generations of Hudson residents. Families, children will grow up, their children may grow up in this facility. So it needs to be expedited, but it also needs to be done with thoughtful consideration about what this new piece of Hudson looks like and how it's going to define so many lives in our cities. So we need to do better than to just follow past models. The current best thinking for affordable housing emphasizes human scale, integration into existing neighborhoods, dignity of design, durability of materials, sense of home rather than a sense of an institution. And we need to also overlay green design as we move through the next 50, 60, 70 years. We need to be thinking about sustainability. We ought to look at US Green Building Council guidelines and other national guidelines that might help inform our thinking. Taking time to get this right is our most important job at the planning board and on your team, Jeff. And we want to do it with you, or we can support the lives of future generations. I would conclude by saying we're not going to talk a lot about the design tonight because we don't have a lot of information yet. We've seen your elevations. But I will tell you we have work to do because there's an awful lot of the mid-1960 DNA still existing. And we need to look at it, we need to study it, we need to understand what does it feel like to be a human being and a family living in that space? How do we make it the best possible experience for them that we can? Not simply do what we've done in the past, but look at the paths forward in terms of how we think about investing our time, money in these people's lives and in our community. Any other comments or discussion from board members?
And I would just, second everything you just said. And Jeffrey, I appreciate the tour you gave me. I guess it's a couple of years ago now. So I feel like 100% loyal to my neighbors in Bliss Towers, and the urgency I completely understand. I'm happy to be on the planning board to try to make this something that works for everybody. I share a lot of the concerns that Ron points at in his point, and I hope that we get to work together to make something that brings us together. I feel like there are elements of the designs that have been put forward in the past that do repeat the mistakes of the past, and would harm when we have an opportunity to actually do some repair. So I'm excited about that opportunity to have conversations about making this work for everybody.
Other comments? I would say that, as it's been explained to me, there would be opportunities later in the process to have deeper, richer conversations about design. And so we'll look forward to having those conversations. I would add one footnote. If we built the building exactly as it is today at your elevations, it would still be 1,000,000 times better than the existing facility. So this is not about, oh, all is lost, this is horrible. This is about, it's good, let's make it better, and let's work together to make sure we do. Is that covered? Andrew, Chris, others? Thank you all. Thanks for your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
You might want you're certain you're not somebody's not to be the agency.
Before you leave, we believe we're going to, community to take an action to do that.
Yeah, I think we should take a motion to declare yourself lead agency.
Okay.
Just for purposes of the record.
So we are going to take action tonight to declare ourselves lead agency on this project. I would like to hear a motion to that effect. Shane moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and Linda, will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Vogel,
Yes.
absent. Ms. Hoffman. Yes. Mr. Shanksby.
Yes. Okay, so the Hudson Planning Board is now your lead agency, and off we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a brief pause so that I can use my stamp. And while we're doing that, the team from 724, 726 Columbia will be getting ready. Also, here, so for you, it's not a week. I still like it. There's no, I think we're clear. I normally go somewhere, nothing I heard. But hopefully. So, well, it'd be more than one copy though. Could be not. There's right here.
Sorry. Yeah, you have to go back, you get it scanned in, so you can upload it, and then you need at least 3 or more copies.
What month is that? Project is that? Okay. Was that it? Okay. Thanks, sir.
Yes.
You introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Charlie Gottlieb. I'm the Land Use Council of Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah in Albany, New York, and welcome to the new board members. I am hopefully going to continue to be a familiar face to this board.
Yeah.
I've been in front of this board going on about 6.5 years now, working on some really exciting projects in the city of Hudson. So here this evening on behalf of Galvin Initiatives Foundation for project 724, 726. Just to refresh your memory for those who haven't seen the project, this is a public theater space, which will have a restaurant element to it that is accessory to, some offices and a kitchen. We have been before the planning board, I want to say, for about over a year. Again, there are no exterior changes. We are going into an existing space that is next to the Return Brewery. There is, however, in the back where the alley is, in August of 2025, we got the city council to agree to a land swap. That land swap is, if anyone's familiar with the alley, long alley behind the building or in front of the building, however you want to position yourself, There is currently the end of the alleyway does not follow the actually publicly owned street. It actually goes on to Galvin Initiatives property and then exit onto the right of way. So we're gonna formalize that through this project. So now that will be city-owned property all the way through to the access points. And then a little pocket park kind of entrance into the theater space will be created where the alleyway should have always been. So this creates an entrance into the theater. And again, this whole idea in this area of the city where the depot district is and other projects is to kind of create a neighborhood feel here. So we had public hearings in July. We had public hearings, I believe, in November, and then the public hearing was closed in December. We had responded in November to engineering and other comments. At the December meeting, we did not yet have an engineering review. We certainly believe we've addressed those comments. So actions this evening that we would like to entertain are any outstanding and engineering questions. But we do think we're in a position now for approval of this, which would be site plan approval, re-subdivision approval to file the new plat that creates the new alleyway, as well as a secret negative declaration. The city council did their own secret negative declaration when they discontinued that portion of Long Alley. But this board has to do a negative declaration as well for its planning board approvals. So if you guys want to walk them through the plans with members who haven't seen it yet.
Installations, 13 page, either one of these.
I hope you all can see this. This is the return brewery. It's about half of the total building. This is the part of the building under consideration. Columbia Street, Long Alley, and State Street. So basically what Charlie was just explaining, Long Alley currently technically runs like this, but you can't actually enter a street without explaining the angle that will kill people coming in. So de facto, that everybody takes the street piece of property that was under Galvin's ownership, and I think it's been swapped now. So the idea would be to create a new, improved access out onto the street. And this is the little park and entry that Charles spoke of. We actually have a little opportunity to use some trees. And as a matter of interest, this was the old foundry building for the Different Woods Company. So this part of the building is a very fine 19th century facade, foundry. And this part was actually new built in the 1950s as a car show when we were going to restore the facade the way it was when it was a Cadillac.
I'm so sorry. Just.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
So, after a lot of discussion, we developed a plan where there are bollards protecting pedestrians here. We checked all of the sight lines, and hopefully the engineers have also agreed that this is a safe way to enter and exit the street. We've got all of our egresses in place, and now we just need a site plan.
Chris, Andrew, any comments or questions?
I've not had a chance to review it since the last submittal. So again, as soon as I get, we can do it next week or two, we'll get a full comment letter out. And hopefully you've addressed all the comments that I had.
And then we bring it back in the March meeting and probably vote to approve based on this final review.
Thank you.
I would just ask, even the commission was from November 2026. If you come across something early enough, that's an issue and we can change, reach out, we'll fix it. And that way we're on track for March.
Before you leave, any comments or questions from board? Exciting project.
Great. Thank you.
That's the 405. 405 Columbia, same ago. We're not going to hear about 405 Columbia.
By the way, I'm.
I'm Kitty Walkman, I'm the civil engineer on this project.
Here on behalf of the public stage, the property owner. 405 Long Beach Street, formerly known as Helsinki, is a commercial venue restaurant. We would like to reopen it while making some improvements and also some minor expansions, building more gross floor area. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. There's not much changes that we're proposing other than that one minor expansion. Our architect could go into more detail on those items.
I'll be brief. So currently this exists and, was until fairly recently functioning nightclub and restaurant. The proposal is to add a stair and elevator here to make it properly accessible to everybody, some additional bathrooms, and then bring a corridor down and creating a kind of pavilion space for secondary activities, an event space. And I think with that comes a hopefully nice successful landscape development of the currently kind of empty yard that's there. So, we hope it will be an enhancement.
We also have a parking and traffic analysis underway. At the last meeting, the board members raised a question about a previous parking arrangement that was in place for the county at the adjacent lot, and they've sent us some language regarding that arrangement and uploaded to be
Agree. Chris, anything?
Like I've been saying, just got to go ahead and start doing a review on this. We'll get comments back to you.
No, nothing on mine.
Board questions, comments? Thank you for coming. Walter, you're 1416 North 4th Street. It's next. You want me to pull up a chair for you? Go ahead.
After this is done. So this is an interesting situation. I'll be very brief again. When we began this project, we wanted to extend the Hudson Public Hotel with some additional guest rooms onto this site. We did our research with the code officer and determined that there is an error in the city maps and that what was designated as a historic district extension is not in fact an actual historic district extension and not been voted on. So we proceeded to develop a project, and then Carol, the #1 sleuth, managed to find the document somewhere buried at the bottom of the drawer in the back of the file cabinet that proved that this had been incorporated into the historic district. And to paraphrase the HPC, which we had been referred to by this board, you'll knock those buildings down over our dead bodies. So we are here to save ourselves and those members, any uncomfortable. And so what we're proposing to do is, and this is a little bit of a sleight of hand, but I hope it's acceptable. We had submitted and we're under review for a site plan that showed the new building. And instead, we would like to basically swap that out with you and consider a site plan that utilizes the 2 existing houses. We have 14 hotel rooms and I believe 6 parking spaces, 5 for a long street. We're not able to do that because the houses are in the way. So we have 2 fewer rooms. This proposal is 12 rooms, but at the moment, we're not proposing any additional parking.
So I think we have 2 options. We can either treat it as a new project and start from the beginning, or we can just say, this is the same function as the previous. The route you're getting from A to B is a little more complicated, but it's the same function. So the board might consider this just to be a continuation of the same project and vote to approve.
That would be wonderful.
Andrew?
Yeah, that would be fine. I just wanted to clarify, vote to approve at the appropriate time.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Thank you. Chris?
The only question I have is the existing garage that's there, is that staying as part of this? Okay.
What is the appropriate times?
So after completing seeker review and conducting the public hearing.
So the two buildings are gonna remain because of that fluke in the record. And you're gonna still make them into, how many rooms did you say? 12. 12 each?
No, 12 total between two buildings.
Between the two buildings.
Yeah, and they were apartment buildings.
Right. And the garage is staying.
Yes,
How's that gonna be utilized?
so, if you want to address that, or shall I?
It's storage at the moment, it would probably just remain the same.
Just remains as-
Always storage for this complex here, this was all one parcel, right? So, this is now being treated as a separate business, it does still utilize that garage. for-
Are there gonna be any exterior repairs or upgrades to that garage?
Yeah, well, not to the garage, no. I mean, it's in relatively decent shape at the moment, so we're not proposing anything for it.
Okay.
I mean, we can take out any rotten timbers and repaint it, it's in pretty good shape from the outside at least.
So the exteriors of the building will be restored, but remain as is, and then the interiors will be completely renovated.
Yes, we thought the most interesting approach to this would be to leave everything as is, so we would replace the windows in kind and in the existing openings, including some interesting arrangements in the back, and keep all the little bits and pieces that were added on over the years, because we found that we actually could make it function fairly well that way.
While bringing it up to code and also addressing the accessibility requirements.
Oh, yeah, so we will have that's a really good point. We're introducing a ramp here that comes, I don't know if you all know this building, there's a kind of interesting second story addition that comes out over, I guess it was a carport, and this was a residence. And so we're gonna utilize that to make a ramp and access to get into the first guest room here, so we have an accessible room.
What's the relationship between all these parcels? Is it all one entity? Is the Helsinki place? What can you tell the story of all three of these?
So
What's the relationship between them?
So originally, this was one parcel. Now, we're treating this as a separate entity because it's a different business. This will go with the hotel, and this will be, what will it be? It would be a club, nightclub, restaurant, or just what?
14 or?
No, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they all tie together in some way in the end. 4 or 5 being sort of the performance or, restaurant aspect of the operation, though it's undertaken by a different entity, not the Hudson Public Hotel LLC. And then this is simply an extension to the current project underway at 4th and Moore. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to poll the board. Where do you kind of feel we need to go? Do you want to just continue the project on the path we're on, or do you want to entertain the idea of going back and starting the process?
I don't see why we need to start over unless there's something I don't understand.
Yeah. Continue. So what do we need to do next?
So if you could bring us up to speed on the seeker status, I understand that the board classified the action and circulated its intent to service lead agency. Is that accurate? And that was based on the first application before?
And we've also established escrow on both 4 or 5 in this project.
So it would be appropriate to recirculate that notice of intent to be lead agency with these revised plans to the interested and involved agencies at this time, so they can see the updated shift in plans. And if the board agrees with that, I think it would be appropriate to accept a motion to that effect.
Can I give us the language again?
The board could circulate its intent to service lead agency based upon the updated plans.
Okay, based on that, is there a motion from the board? Okay, second. Gene, okay. What else do we need to do tonight? Well, we need to vote, of course. That's a good idea. Thank you, Jane. You've been on the board 5 years.
Chairman Vogel.
Yes, Peter.
Ms. Conrad Anderson. Ms. Hoffman. Yes. Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Shetsky.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter.
Yes.
Mr. Woodhouse absent.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have, tomorrow, that's next one. Where should I drop them off? There. You're here?
Drop one off the
City,
building department
um,
and the other
the
two.
building inspector gets a copy.
Right,
We were given a copy to the city clerk,
right.
but I don't know if they still want it or not. There was some
If you
controversy.
leave them here, she wants it, she'll keep one.
Okay,
Other will come.
it went for us, went for the building inspector, went for the, three additional copies, and one for yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Now, our next order of business is new business. We're gonna learn about 22 Park Place.
I'm not sure if I should provide you guys with these plans or not. I that could be better, so but send it to me.
Anything?
I'm sure we would like.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I said, would you like to see the plans? I've submitted the plans previously, but.
You can circulate them around the table if anybody wants to look at them.
Thank you.
Right, hi everyone. My name is Milad. I am entrepreneur, small business owner. I was in Brooklyn for a few years. I had several cafes and coffee shop and restaurants in Brooklyn. One was Civil Service Cafe, one was Post Bar. It was operated for about 15, 16 years, and COVID happened, and it was kind of unfortunately had to close. But fortunately, I moved up to upstate and found this beautiful community. I was very community oriented. Everybody loved what I had done, and they want me to come back and do it again. But I think I found a new community. So I found this very cute area, location that was on 22 Park. I used to be, I think, an art dealer. It's very small. It's about 600 something square feet. I spoke to the building inspector. He was sort of on board with what I was doing, and we're not doing much of a change. We're putting in the hoods, some small cooking apprentices, and pretty much we have a small dining area. I would say 12 to 17, 18 seats, more or less. So it's a very small operation. Tend to get food from the local farmers, and find if I have beers and wines from local brewery and the wineries, so forth. For the past 2 years, I was working several different locations in Hudson to get familiar with what the market is about, so I can, provide the best food. So I'm all about quality and providing good food for community for those who are responsible. So, yeah. Does that have any questions?
Chris?
What exactly is your business? Do you serve food? Is it a kitchen?
Yeah, so we have a small kitchen. We would be focusing on some grilled meats, just marinated, some sides, some vegetarian options, some gluten-free options. And we also have option of having, some drinks. I tend to focus on homemade drinks, and it's also we'll have an option of having beer and wine and maybe a cocktail too.
Mostly dinner or lunch and dinner?
Yeah, I would try to have lunch and dinner. So we would start from 11, 12 o'clock and then go to about 8 o'clock most weeks. And then on the weekends, about 10 o'clock, I would say.
Would you plan having any live music, bands at this establishment?
It's very small.
Small.
It's very small. So if we have, it would be very private, very small.
It's not an issue with noise.
No, it's
the location of the place is like a standalone building, so we are not gonna have any noise problem regardless. If we do anything, it's very minimal and private, nothing to be like, lying.
And on one side is a empty lot, right, or a
Yes.
driveway, and on the other side is,
It's a residential business.
oh, it's a hotel,
It's
right?
a Charleston.
Yes, yes, so there are no residential buildings even on that block, I don't think.
There's one residential building to the left.
Okay, okay,
Which has like about 4 or 5.
okay.
Which is an apartment building on Park Place in Columbia Street.
Yes.
And it's an apartment building on Park Place in Warren. So there are residential areas there.
So as far as I understand it, like, where immediately close by is, like, there's a hotel to my right. And to my left is a residential building which has 4 or 5 apartments.
Right.
On the other side of the empty,
Yes.
yeah.
Makes sense? Am I answering correctly?
Yeah, it seems like a nice location for a little restaurant to me.
Andrew, do you have any contribution to the conversation?
No, not at this point.
Just a preliminary looks, it looks like a very straightforward project and, without a lot of hurdles to over, but it's exciting. Your PowerPoint that you posted on the portal was really attractive and made me hungry.
Yeah.
The food hopefully will be great. Like I promised.
Is there anything else for tonight's discussion? Thank you, sir, for coming.
Just out of curiosity, how long do I, because, how long should we, we be looking at this?
Is there anything that the board is looking for from the applicant at this point in time? Is there any outstanding
The
materials?
board should probably establish escrow for reviews. So that's a motion you might want to take up right now. They provide a short form. Did you do a short form EAF in the submittal?
Not sure, but,
I don't think so.
Okay. You probably should prepare a short form EAF. I'm guessing it's probably a type 2 action. But that's just, is safe to prepare. It's a simple form to do.
yeah, no.
Jane, Linda, any recommendations on escrow?
We've done in the past a minimum of $1,000. And then depending on the size of the project, it would increase up to $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, so.
You understand how the escrow works?
I do understand what escrow is, but I don't understand how does that apply to the board here.
Jane, would you explain?
What's that?
I said, I do understand what the meaning of escrow is, but I don't understand how does that apply to the board.
Okay. We have hired a consultant, an attorney, engineer. They take your application and your paperwork, they review it. And that costs money. We don't pay for that. The applicant pays for that. So where the escrow is set at $1,000, $5,000, and there's money left over after we approve or not approve the project, the remaining monies goes back to you.
No problem.
And that's for clarity, that's set forth in the city's code section.
Sure,
I don't have it offhand, but I can provide it to you.
sure, thank you.
Would a $1,000 escrow be coverage? I'm sorry.
Check. You have any recommendations, because you're the one that does this work?
Probably gonna be a couple meetings, at least for me to come down and review it, or the next consultant. The attorney's coming down and you're gonna have to pay him, so I would say 4, at least to start with.
And your office reviewing this application, you have any idea?
I would echo that recommendation.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. I'm trying to.
It was 400 in an escrow.
No.
Oh, I thought it was 400. No wonder he looked so happy. So we're recommending 4,000? Okay. Is that a burden or hardship for you?
Of course it is, yes. I'm a small business owner, and I was trying to,
Well, we can,
make this from ground up, but
we could set a escrow lower, so it's not such a burden on hand. And if we need monies, we could always, do an amendment, replenish the escrow for more money.
So you're saying it would cost $4,000 to process this application?
You've got to figure you're paying for Andrew's time to come down.
Per hour,
It's not cheap, my time,
per hour.
reviewing it, it's, a couple hours, 3-4 hours at least, review time.
Okay.
I would recommend if the board is going to go with the reduced escrow that we just monitor it, so there's no issues of things getting out of hand. To be fair to the applicant and to be fair to the board.
Yeah.
So,
It's very good at keeping on top of our escrow.
so I'm listening for a figure. What's the recommendation?
So
4,000?
Maybe you can drop it down to 25, but be aware that it might go up from there, depending upon how extensive the review gets.
What's the timeframe that I should be looking at, give you some answers?
What time frame for getting answers?
that's up to you guys,
It's a couple weeks. We'd be able to get some view out.
before the next meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
But you mean approval?
Yes.
Oh, no,
No.
a few months,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Probably, what, 3 or 4 months?
Well,
And I would hesitate just to
2
give a
or 3
rough
months.
estimate, but generally the procedure follows this board gets satisfied with the application, do the seeker classification and neg deck if appropriate, then you have to schedule a public hearing, do that, and then take final action on an application.
So the escrow, we would be carrying for a multi, 2 or 4 months. Gives you an idea how long you have to be separate from that money.
And any money that's not spent comes back to you to get it out. So
Yeah,
it's
sure.
fast.
You have to consider how much I'm paying rent for the space that's sitting empty, me doing this, so just asking we can move forward.
Procedure. So trade phone numbers with Lyndon tonight. She's our board clerk. And if you have any procedural questions, she'll be able to advise you.
Thank you so much.
Should we get the escrow set up? Sure, just so we can start the review and move on.
2,200, 2,500.
Questions, we know.
Is that take a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion for $2,500 escrow. Thank you.
Second.
And,
Who's making the motion?
Motion.
oh, I was just gonna add something, but
Fine.
perhaps it's inappropriate, so stop me. I would have a hard time imagining that this project wouldn't be approved.
Yeah.
And that everything you're putting into it, is going toward an approval, if that's helpful.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't foresee any issue.
Thank you. Depends on the quality of your house, actually.
I would say Baba Ganoush, but we can argue about
We
it.
can argue all night about that.
We're very glad that you're here.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second for a $2,500 escrow to be set up.
I'll second it.
And is there a roll call?
Chairman Vogel,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad absent, Ms. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Shefky,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet.
Yes.
Look forward to hosting our board meeting at your place next fall.
One more thing. You need to write a check to the city of Hudson, drop it off to the treasurer's office.
Sure.
Soon.
I could do tomorrow.
And,
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're gonna turn the notice. Yes. Say what you need it. Okay, thank you.
And finally, we're going to hear from Gigi's Wine Bar. And are you Gigi?
Hi.
Oh, good. You know, you're not Gigi.
I just have some paper copies of some, floor plans and a site plan that we submitted on the portal. Just because I'm not an electronic user, so if you want to take one of each, while I give a spiel. Well, good evening again, Charlie Gottlieb from Whiteman Alstom, Indiana, land use council for the Hudson Depot District LLC, as well as GG's Wine Bar. I'm here this evening with GG Fairchild. To my right will be the owner operator of the proposed wine bar that we're here to discuss this evening. Importantly, the Depot District, I was involved with that entire permitting process. That's now a building. It's a reality. So this wine bar is going to occupy one of the commercial spaces on the ground floor. That is 1,521 square feet at the existing building at 76 North 7th Street. This is in the GTC zoning district. So the wine bar is a permitted use with site plan approval from your board as a eating and drinking establishment. A little bit of history behind the existing building. The Depot District building, I think we started application process in 2019. Late this summer, it went through a few different site plan amendments. In August of this year, I believe it was, we saw a site plan amendment related to some landscaping in the rear. We had a public hearing, and now the Depot District building is about 40% tenant occupied. There are 5 commercial spaces on the ground floor. There's a pet store that is tenanted that space, and Gigi's Wine Bar would be the second. We initially thought when this wine bar was proposed that she could simply just go in and get a building permit, considering that this commercial space has already been approved by the planning board for commercial use. But we did get a rejection from the building inspector stating that that was more geared toward retail or office as opposed to an eating or drinking establishment, and that's why we're here this evening. You'll see we provided the most recent approved site plan, as well as a preliminary floor plan that shows seating of the wine bar and exactly where the space will be on that first floor of the Depot District building. The hours of operations will be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., Friday, Saturday, 4 p.m. to 1 a.m., Sundays, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. There will be anywhere between 2 or 4 employees. Based on the floor plans that are in front of you, max occupancy is around 40 to 50 people. They will serve wine by the glass and by the bottle for consumption on premises only. There will be light food that will complement the wine, cheese, nuts, charcuterie boards. But I say this only because there will be, a warming equipment, but this is not a commercial kitchen. So there will be no major commercial appliances in the restaurant. Very similar to our last application, something of this nature. So again, we are using a existing building, occupying existing space, 1,500 square feet, very clearly a type 2 action under secret. So there is no secret review at all, but it is worth noting that the Depot District building itself went through a wildly comprehensive secret review back in 2021, which considered this commercial space. And I'm not sure if the planning board knows this, but again, this is something that can speed up the review process for these small business owners that are looking to come into the city of Hudson. New York State General City Law and your own city zoning code does not require public hearings. You may, on your own discretion, if you find out as though there may be an impact to public health, safety, and welfare. So in our cover letter that we submitted to the planning board, we noted that we really don't need a public hearing on this small application for a number of reasons. One is I counted from 2021 until August of 2025, the Depot District building had about 15 public hearings. The last one being in July and August of 2025, where no residents had shown up, and that's when the building was constructed. And I think that's most notable because sometimes complaints come to the building after it's constructed, and impacts start to be realized. Additional reasons why we think the planning board should consider waiving the public hearing. It's a small tenanted space. It's a secret type 2 action, which by state regulation inherently will not result in environmental impact. No commercial kitchen, no external changes whatsoever to the existing building. The Depot District has constructed a pedestrian-friendly North 7th Street now. So we have street trees, ADA compliant sidewalks, crosswalks, and about 20 on-street parking spaces that are new. There is no off-street parking required for this project. It's a principally permitted use. And again, we've already had numerous public hearings on this building. So with that said, we ask that you waive the public hearing requirement. Another addition that's in my cover letter is I went through your planning board as site plan review criteria. So we identified for you how we meet each of the site plan review criteria. Just very quickly, a lot of them are inapplicable because we're not disturbing any ground. We're not building any structures. We're not changing the facade of the building. We have a pedestrian friendly project site. I noted the street improvements and the pedestrian improvements. We're not increasing impervious surfaces. Landscaping remains as approved. We're creating a walkable neighborhood. There's no water bodies or wetlands. There's no outside storage, no exterior changes. So Gigi will introduce herself, but one of the things, as we were kind of rushing to make the planning board submission, is she would like to be operational given the lease with the Depot District building in May. So there are ways, and I know we talked about planning board process with the last applicant, but we don't have to do this in 4 months, right? It's a secret type 2 action. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You can make that decision tonight. Tonight, you can also refer it to the county for review because we are within 500 feet of Columbia Street, which is a state right of way. We also ask that you waive the public hearing, given the history and small nature of the project. With all that said, we could respond to any questions you have this evening by the March meeting. And so by the March meeting, all this can get done. We can be approved. We can have a small business owner in the city of Hudson. So there's my spiel. Gigi, if you want to say a few words, introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight and welcoming me. I'm Gigi Fairchild. I'm the owner of Anna et Pierre Le Café, which is currently located in Poughkeepsie. And so this project is also going to be named Anna et Pierre, but it's going to be Le Comptoir, which just means the counter. It's named after my grandparents, Anna and Pierre. They are a big inspiration of mine since I was a young girl. Anna's still with us. Their home, we're from the Caribbean, and their home was the center of their community where they hosted people for coffee and tea and small plates and wine and all the deliciousness. And so I named my company after that. My cafe is doing really well. It just came from there. And I'm really excited to bring our wine bar to Hudson. It will be a very intentional space. It's not a place that you just pop into. It's a place that you plan for, a place that you bring people to, a place where you go to celebrate all sorts of the things that life has to offer. So I'm very intentional in my space. If you're ever in Poughkeepsie, come visit my cafe. Lots of live plants, lots of sage that burns in the space. So it's all good energy all around. And so I want to bring something that encourages community and warmth and good vibes. So very excited about this wine bar. Do you have any questions for me at all?
Yes. You mentioned the construction project up there with the Galvin Enterprise went through like 10, 12, 15 public hearings, and it was eventually approved by the board. Approving it, it was for a commercial retail space, not a wine bar. So you're changing that one area from commercial space to the wine bar.
Correct.
Okay. Secondly, it was approved and accepted by the Columbia County Planning Board, I remember?
Yes, it was.
Because there's a county building right across the street, 610 State Street, and then you mentioned Columbia Street being the state highway.
Yep.
Which falls under that review. Now this is for you. Because the change of it from retail space to the wine bar. Do we need to do any public hearing? Because when it was originally accepted, it was all retail space. And secondly, do we have to go back to the Columbia County Board of Supervisors requesting their input? Because a county building is right across the street and the state highway is there.
Sure. So this, sorry, this application would trigger the general municipal law referral to the county, as I think the applicants articulated in their presentation. So to answer that part of your question, yes. And now the second part of your question, the city's code language is discretionary. It's not mandatory, and I'm just pulling it up here. It's 325-35 site plan development approval, section 3A. In deciding whether to convene a public hearing, the planning board shall consider the level of public interest in and the desire for a public hearing and the potential for the proposed plan or amendment to adversely impact the public's health, safety, or welfare. So it is discretionary language left up to this board. I'm sure some of the board members are more familiar with the history of the project than I am. And I'll also touch on the seeker part, where this project would be a type 2 action. And just so everyone's on the same page, that's the state type 2 list where it categorically lists actions that will not have an environmental impact. And I think it's 9C9, I don't have it in front of me, but that's when there's a renovation or construction less than 4,000 feet in an existing permitted use.
Yeah, it's C9 and it also falls under C18, which is reuse of an existing building for a non-residential use where you don't need any area there.
I guess my question is, I think it's in everybody's best interest for the project to move along as quickly as possible and for you to be operational. And I might be wrong here, but it just seems like if we could have a public hearing and engage the public and allow them to participate and collaborate, why not if it doesn't slow it down? Just because that is being a good neighbor, to put it simply, maybe. Does a public hearing have to slow down the process?
Not necessarily, no, but so long as it is noticed properly and conducted according to the code. Well, I will say there is a required county referral, so the board would at least be waiting for that to come back. And I'm not sure when the county meets down here. I could look into that, make sure it lines up with the board's next meeting date. I don't know it offhand, but
Get it out tomorrow. But they won't hear it until next month.
and when does their meeting line up with our board's meeting?
It's faster.
So would that mean that putting this on next month's agenda, a public hearing for this project on next month's agenda, would come before the county meeting and thus not slow down the process at all?
That's right.
Brilliant.
So I just think it's nice to let the public have their say, and if it doesn't slow down your process at all, I don't see what the purpose of skipping over that would be.
So is that an action item?
If the board wants to schedule a public hearing, then it would be an action item. I would also recommend, not sure how we've previously done it down here, but I think it would be appropriate to classify this as a type 2 action exempt from further review, just for clarity of the record. And you could do that by accepting a motion to that effect.
Why don't we combine those two into one motion? A public hearing on March.
Absolutely. Gigi has a question for the.
So,
I'm sorry.
hi, so having the public, vote, are they voting? So explain to me if you could, what exactly happens in a public hearing? They listen to what I want to do and then they can say that they don't want this or not?
It just gives them an opportunity to voice any concerns or ask any questions. It's up to this board, to make the final decision. The public doesn't get to vote. We can take what they've said and questions they've asked into consideration or not.
Okay.
It's really just a gesture, I would argue, on a gesture from us and you to the public to say, we're a community. We'd love to hear your input. They also might just have a really good idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, it's honestly, I don't imagine there will be much to say about this because it seems like a very sweet project that fits in beautifully to what is happening already and people have already talked about a lot. So I don't foresee anybody having anything major to say. It's just kind of a nice part of this process to allow for public engagement, if it doesn't slow you down in any way.
Right, but I wouldn't be able to apply for a permit or start any construction until that happens?
Oh, no.
Okay,
Well, you
That is,
The answer is yes, you can't do it until that whole process is through.
Right.
But whether we have a public hearing or not, it sounds like that's not gonna slow down that process from approval. Because we still need county planning board.
The county planning board will meet after our next meeting.
Okay,
So you'll have to wait just as long with or without the public hearing.
okay,
And so my argument is, why not? It really isn't gonna have an effect on your timeline.
right.
And it just means that the public feels like they're a part of it.
So when is that next meeting?
would be the second.
And then you're probably looking at April, then for approval.
Yep, and I think, you know, the anxiety you're likely feeling on this side of the table and that you saw on the last applicant side is these small business owners are trying to make investments.
Yeah.
And you're facing, the unknown, right? We all know planning board process because, luckily I'm at them 4 nights a week. But, it is hard. How do we make that investment? That's why I appreciated your comment at the last matter, saying that this is kind of a vanilla application worth investing in the city of Hudson. And so I think that's where that anxiety comes from. And so what I would say is if we can, if the board does agree that a public hearing is necessary, you know, my last plea that we don't need a public hearing is the city legislature made it discretionary for a reason. And they made it discretionary to not bog down small applications with unnecessary meetings. So this board should appreciate the legislative discretion that the city council had in making the public hearings discretion. But that said, I understand the timeline, and certainly it's the board's decision.
Well, that was why I was asking these questions. Are we bogging you down? And if not, why not? Because I don't want to bog you down. I think it's a great project and I hope you're up and running as soon as possible. And I'm not saying I think it is necessary. I just think it's nice.
I like the idea too. I agree. You know, being in where I am, I've got a lot of feedback from the folks around me and incorporated some of their ideals into the cafe that I now own. But again, like just, so now we set up for the next meeting. And
Correct.
potentially getting approval by April, meaning that pushes 2 months into the construction starting.
Yes.
But that would be true with or without.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of the county referral.
And so, one of the things we can explore, and maybe this is something someone on the planning board can help with, is, you know, as we get through the review process and positive feedback is relayed, then I think it's more comfortable maybe applying for a building permit and then having that building permit review proceed. And then once the planning board approval comes, the building permit can get stamped, so we don't have a lag, in the process.
I mean, I support anything that sort of expedites the project that you want to make happen for all, so.
Okay, we need to talk about escrow.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I agree with you and the applicant in bringing small businesses into the city. We need more. Board is open to that. I agree with it anyway. I assume the board does too. As far as the wine bar, we already have 2 breweries there. One on the, across the street, one right next door to it. The alcohol is being served, it's already there. A little wine bar is not gonna affect the immediate area. I don't think it's gonna affect the breweries, because they serve beer. I don't think they serve anything else, I haven't been in there, like bourbon. But, and as far as the public hearing, yes, it will not slow down the process, but I don't think, because the 2 breweries are there, the alcohol is being served, and it's been accepted, they're open, I assume they're making money, they're still open, they're crowded every weekend. I don't see a need for a public hearing. I don't wanna waste the public's time, and I don't wanna waste our time sitting through it, and we've been not years past, applications in the past, they go on and on and on and on, and it's usually repetition. I don't see that happening with your application. So I, myself, don't think we need a public hearing.
Let's take these one piece at a time. Let's deal with the public hearing first. Any other comments about whether or not we schedule a public hearing on March 13th?
Yeah, I feel like I'm also of the mind that given I feel like everybody did their job here. I feel like the code enforcement officer sent you guys to us for a good reason. But I also don't know that we really need a public hearing because of the nature of the changes that you're making. And I do really feel, an obligation to support you in your effort to bring a business here. I also really do connect with the instinct to try to bring the public into conversation around this stuff. So there's ambivalence, but I think wanting to sort of make a place where people can come and build stuff very easily, I want to make it as simple and easy for you as possible. So my instinct is to agree with the path that you had laid out, and to not have a public hearing.
Any other comments?
And well, I mean, thinking about it, I mean, Gabby does raise a good point, as far as trying to it's kind of like an introduction to the public. But I also understand the opposite view that, you don't necessarily want to prolong the process unnecessarily. But I think I'm more leaning on the side of the public hearing than not yet, but yeah.
So if I could summarize the discussion. Public hearing would not slow the process. It would add an additional component to the process. But we're not going to be able to deal with this in any kind of an action until the April meeting anyway. So it just adds an element. And I think Gabriel's.
No, Gabby's fine.
Okay. Gabby, I think your argument is persuasive that anytime you have an opportunity for the public to feel like they're part of a conversation, that's good. And it may actually be good publicity for you. So let's get a motion on the floor on the public hearing. Either yea or nay, but a motion to hold a public hearing at our next board meeting.
I'll make.
You've got some date time.
March 13th to 6 p.m.
Yeah, me too.
It would just be incorporated in our regular meeting.
You just gotta make sure you state that date.
But could
Okay, very good.
make the resolution, declare it a type 2, refer to county planning and set the public hearing.
You're putting it
I
in.
think we should split those because I don't know how the board is going to vote on this public hearing. Here it's split, so it.
I have a question to make it even more complicated. Next meeting is March 13th. Or is it?
It should be the second Tuesday, the 10th, isn't it?
Because another way around this is if you have a special meeting.
Excuse me, it's March 10th.
Okay, because if you don't hear back from a county based on a referral within 30 days, you can then take action. But because February is short, I don't think there's 30 days in between today and March 10th.
At the city hall?
Right.
It would be both virtual and in person.
So we have a motion on the floor. A public hearing, March 10th, 6 p.m. There's a motion and a second. Who made the second?
I think just for clarity, so there is an active motion to schedule a public hearing, correct? It's an affirmative action, so for it to be scheduled, we'll need an affirmative majority vote.
A vote of yes is for the hearing, a vote of no is against the hearing.
Chairman Vogel,
Yes?
Ms. Cocker's absent. Ms. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Shetsky.
No.
Mr. Spear.
No.
I actually think one more person at the vote yet because you're a board of 7 and so you need 4 votes to approve.
Somebody else.
You do need an affirmative vote of the board fully constituted, so for a 7-member board, all our votes are on a base 7, if you would, not of just the people here.
Well, that's, we learn something every day.
So it failed.
So it failed. We will not have a public hearing there. Now we're going to move on to the second item, and that's the type 2 action. Could you provide the language for that motion?
Sure, I think it'd be appropriate for the board to accept a motion to classify this action as type 2 for purposes of seeker and exempt from further environmental review.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All right. Linda?
Chairman Vogel,
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Shamsky.
Yes.
Mr. Spear.
Yes.
And does the county referral require an action?
Yes, we should do that on the record.
Okay, let's put the language for that.
Or just motion to refer the matter to the county planning board pursuant to the general municipal law.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Okay, so here. I'm good.
Jerry.
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman.
Yeah.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Shamsky.
Yes.
Mr. Spear.
Yes.
So what's the next step in this process for the applicant?
I think the board could establish an escrow account in its discretion.
And I think the recommendation was $1,500.
I understand there's no engineering review on this, and I think our review would be fairly limited, so that seems appropriate to.
The only thing I would add, look at the parking and see what the parking of a wine bar versus a commercial space will do. I know you did extensive private parking,
You know, my answer is gonna be.
it's not required. If you could just do a blurb, it would look at.
Yeah, we'll do.
You're right, though, it's not required.
And I'm assuming, is your business model that you're principally going to, your customers are principally going to be the folks that are living in the complex or?
In the neighborhood.
Okay. So there's a lot of walkability involved in your plan, which is great since we don't require parking anywhere.
Yeah, and it goes back to the feeder project at 724 Columbia, where the idea is to build this neighborhood. And there was a parking assessment done for that one as well, which kind of shows that, you know, you go to the wine bar, you go to the brewery before you go to the theater, and then you go to that gentleman's restaurant to have something to eat, and we're starting to build a community here. It's really cool to see.
You might be fine. I'm guessing you're probably.
Yeah, we'll take a look. I just have to say.
Yes, you could accept it, as long as the 1,500 was okay, you could accept a motion to establish an escrow account in the amount of 1,500.
Yeah. Okay. 15 moves, second?
Second.
Okay. Linda?
Chairman Michael.
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Shamsky. Mr. Spear.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good
so
luck.
much. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
That's actually to speak. John, to check this city treasurer,
To the treasurer. You got it.
$1,500.
Yep, we'll get that out tomorrow.
And then if you'll put a notice out to the treasurer, knowing that it's coming.
Okay, we'll do.
Good, very good luck.
Thank you.
Is there any further new business for our board to consider? Oh, new business, we've got a 90-minute meeting here. So with that, instead of celebration, I'll declare meeting adjourned.